Have you ever wondered where the Kaminoans got the clone trooper armor design from? Well, obviously Mandalorians, but what if I told you that thousands of years earlier, the Old Republic had their own form of troopers who were powerful? So today, I'll explore the differences between Old Republic troopers, Phase 1 clones, Phase 2 clones, and even how the First Order made their stormtroopers a mix between Imperial troops and the clones before them. So for a quick history lesson here, the Republic Army was created in 25,053 BBY at the birth of the Republic and had soldiers that were enforced to protect the galaxy from evil for millennia, and the army would be reconstituted in 3,951 BBY during the Mandalorian Wars, with some of our earliest models of soldiers here who had an admittedly more primitive design with red and gold armor that had grenades and blasters, and also exposed face areas of helmets of varying appearance. A variant of Republic Trooper from this area were the Rocket Jumper Elite Advanced Unit, which were also known as the REAU, and they were equipped with rocket packs and had two main objectives in battle: to hold the line until reinforcements from standard troopers arrived, and also to serve as reconnaissance troops for rescue and quick response missions. They were once ambushed by Juggernaut war droids at the Monument Plaza on Coruscant, and they were disbanded in 1000 BBY when the Republic military was converted into judicial forces. So this is not the first case of one of these troopers, which we'll see coming back later in history, especially around the Clone Wars era with those jetpack troopers, which we see the Wolfpack utilizing a lot of. The Republic troopers from around 3,635 BBY, however, were made during the Old Galactic Republic to defend against Sith and their forces during and after the Great Galactic War. This even included a Special Forces division that was developed after a hesitant truce was signed between the winning Sith Empire and Republic in 3653 BBY, known as the Treaty of Coruscant. These Special Forces troops had bulkier Durasteel and even Cortosis armor. Cortosis was a material that could briefly stop lightsabers, as well as helmets that vaguely resembled the airborne clone helmets that would be used 4,000 or so years later. Jace Malcolm was a human male that was given leadership over Elite Infantry Unit 326, aka Havoc Squad, which was positioned during the height of the war at Alderaan, where the Sith invaded, leading to the Battle of Alderaan, and Malcolm would personally lead an ambush in the woods on these Sith warriors, where he would fight and wrestle with the Sith Lord Darth Malgus, which admittedly was with the help of Satele Shan, but let's be honest, Malcolm carried that fight anyway. I mean, look at him wrestling this guy over here, bro, that's crazy. The brave actions of these soldiers would lead to the massive Republic victory on this scenic planet, which, by the way, I never even realized that this cinematic here takes place during Alderaan, but it kind of makes sense the more I think about it, and I kind of wish we saw more action on Alderaan after seeing it. The normal Old Republic troopers, however, had armor that was designed to be the best in the galaxy at the time and allowed for great protection and movement in battle, which gave them a wide range of combat scenarios to be considered experts in. The Havoc Squad Special Forces armor was similar despite having orange and red markings, as well as bandoliers and pauldrons as some extra accessories. The Old Republic were notable for using more powerful blaster rifles than seen before in the galaxy, which were updated every year to keep up with the climate of the war with the Sith. And I wonder if it's just Jace here, or if like all of these warriors are just like way more powerful than your average clone trooper, but the fact that they could put up a fight with a Sith, especially a Sith like Darth Malgus, is honestly pretty crazy to think about. Moving over to 32 BBY, when Jango Fett was appointed by Count Dooku to be the template for a clone army designed by Darth Sidious for the Republic to later use. Yeah, I know, it's pretty convoluted, but Fett would not only serve as the base to be cloned off of, but would also help with designing the armor, which had similarities to the Mandalorian shock trooper armor he wore, from the plating to the T-shaped visor. He would also help oversee the flash training regimen for the clones. Speaking of plates though, this variant of the Republic Trooper evolution process had 20 plates of form-fitting lightweight plastoid alloy composite on top of a sealed black body glove, which would protect them from outer space. Now here comes the big question. How come old Republic Trooper armor and clone armor, which were spaced thousands of years apart, appear very similar in form? Well, one good answer is that the armor does technically aspire from one military group that was around from back then, and it's not the Republic troops, but instead the Mandalorians, who, remember, were still wearing war-driven armor even back then, and that's where the main connection comes from, as the old Republic troops were probably designed to help against the Mandalorian armor, whereas the clone armor is basically just an updated version of Mandalorian armor. However, while Phase 1 was good for its strong plating, Phase 2 is where the design was changed to allow for better movement and functionality amongst clone brothers, which could be seen as a good thing or a downside. And like I mentioned earlier, you got the airborne helmets, which look similar way back then as they do now. And even some of the other helmets just don't look too far off. Obviously, they have different visor shapes and stuff, but like the helmets themselves are kind of similar. Before the Phase 2 armor change, however, we had ARC Troopers, and while one set of Phase 1 ARC Trooper armor had a normal T-shaped visor like what we see with Captain Fordo and the Munilist 10, but the other type of Phase 1 ARC armor had the back, sides, and fin of a typical Phase 1 clone helmet with a new experimental faceplate that would one day be the Phase 2 clone, with the exception of a slightly more triangular shaping. This did serve as the prototype, or Phase 1.5 for Phase 2, and when the Reg armor changed phases, ARC Phase 2 armor would roll out, which was much closer to standard Phase 2 clones. Keep in mind though that all types of ARC Trooper armor, Phase 1 or 2, came with accessories like commas and etc. But normal Phase 2 clone armor issued in 20 BBY had a visor with a more modern take on combat visibility, as well as an updated armor structure. It's important to know that the original reason for this armor change in Revenge of the Sith coming out of Attack of the Clones was a clear transition into the days of the Stormtrooper with a more skeletal helmet rather than the one with a Mandalorian design like before. Lastly for today, if we cut way ahead to the First Order Stormtrooper, which, by the way, do many of you guys really like that design? I mean, personally, I never really liked it. I feel like it was too clean and, I don't know, kind of bulky looking. But then again, I believe The Last Jedi apparently fixed it a little bit and made it look a little bit better, so I guess we could kind of compare those two here. But the troopers of the First Order were actually similar to the clones, more so than normal stormtroopers, in the sense that while Imperial troops were conscripted from volunteers, the First Order took babies from their families, similar to the Jedi, and practically trained them from birth, like the clones. Also, their intense training regimen modeled that of flash training we talked about earlier with the clone troopers. General Brendel Hux and his son Armitage Hux somehow viewed their armies as the Jedi's legacy. They also had black body gloves and flamethrower troopers, but they did have flamethrower troopers similar to the clones as well, even if overall they bear the closest resemblance to the stormtroopers. In essence, they are the final canon Republic troopers so far. If when we talk about Republic, we're talking about the biggest military might, otherwise it'd be the New Republic, but they don't really have troops. All of those are lame, so yeah. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. There's also a join button, which is completely optional, but would truly help me out in the channel, and I really would appreciate it if you guys would be down to do that. Also, we have a new spring merch drop, which is going to be going out of stock soon, as I'll be moving into summer and getting some new clothes with that as well, so stay tuned for whatever new designs are going to be coming out. We also stream almost every Saturday now, so don't miss those. These types of videos come out every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I also post shorts on Saturday and Sunday, but yeah, see ya.